that I've had in Dick Max. Let me
That
think.
makes you want to be here and nowhere else.
I don't know. Let me think about that for a minute. I suppose. I mean, for me, meeting Oliver in the morning time and the fun and the jokes that we had in the morning time is priceless. But I think for me also, like, music is very important in my life. And not so much anymore, but I used to play music myself, and there was a couple of really great guys around the place, and they were real catalysts, you know. They were fantastic musicians, and every musician that came into town made for here. And it wasn't organised, it wasn't paid for, or anything like that.
It was spontaneous?
Absolutely spontaneous. But the one thing I remember, one particular evening, that the bar inside where the leather counter is now, all inside that bar was full of musicians, and every musician had a different instrument, and neither of them ever played with each other before. And we were there one evening, and it was absolutely hair-raising. That moment lives on in my mind forever.
And how many instruments was there? How many?
I'd say at least the inside bar was absolutely full. You couldn't get in there.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'd say about a good 12 anyway, at least.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they never played before?
Never played together. Never.
And how was it, the result?
The result was absolutely just. I mean, you know it. You know what I mean? When it rings your bells, it rings your bells. You know, there wasn't anything out of tune. It was just like absolutely wow. That for me, for sure, was one of the greatest moments. Because the reason it was a good moment was it brought you somewhere else in your head. I mean, it's like you were transported with the music. You were in the pub, but you weren't actually in the pub. You were away inside someplace with the music. The music was so great, and that's one of the things. That's one of the things here that struck me here. There's been many things over the years, and that in particular was excellent. But I remember on one particular occasion, I actually got barred from here, and I was here on it was Christmas Eve, I think it was, and I was talking to a musician, and Oliver and his wife, they had a dog, and this used to be the kitchen here.
Oh.
And there was a door outside there, and the dog came up to the door and started scratching the door. And automatically I just got up and let the dog in. And then about an hour and a half later, Oliver's wife came out, opened the door, slung the door open, and nearly came off the hinges, right? And she said, "Who left that dog into the kitchen?" And I looked around, and before I even had a chance to say me, it was you, wasn't it? Right? I says, yeah. I said, "Have you any idea what that dog is after doing?" Look, I said, "Josephine, don't worry about it. I'll sort it out." "You'll sort it out. I'll show you what you'll sort out," she says. And she came out, and she had a big server, right, with a leg of ham that was supposed to be on it, right? There was a bone on it, right? And the dog was flat out inside. The dog couldn't get up. The dog couldn't move, right? It was their Christmas ham. And she says to me, "You're barred for life."
Just because you opened that door.
And then about 2 years later, I met her and Oliver up in another bar, and she sat down and said, "Oh, Brian," she goes, "I'm really sorry," she says. "I never really meant to bar you." And Oliver, she says to Oliver, she says, "Oliver, is it okay if Brian comes back in again?" And Oliver says, "I never barred him." So
But you spent 2 years away and you did not know if you were.
I came in once and she kicked me out. But there, you know, I mean, if I had time to think about them, I could think about all the different things that happened inside in this bar over the years. Absolutely amazing, but nothing bad, everything good, everything absolutely positive, great people, some absolutely wonderful people. I've had some great conversations about the things, everything under the sun, and many, and there's a great local crowd here as well. I mean, like during the summertime you get a lot of tourists, visitors coming here, and what happens is like the musicians tend to scatter because they're all in other pubs and playing music or whatever, and then come like September, around middle of September, something happens, and all the local gangs start coming, the local musicians start coming back in again, and we're all back in together then for the winter. So everybody knows each other, and we all sit, there's a fire normally inside there, and during the winter time we all sit around there in the fire, maybe take out a guitar or whatever and just chill, because everybody, by the time the end of September comes, everybody's absolutely wrecked from the season, and the seasons now are getting longer and longer. Before, like, the season was, you could safely say you could open your curtains on the 1st of May, and close your curtains again on the 1st of September.
Okay, and the season is over.
Now it's
extended,
like, wow, yeah,
stretching,
big time. I mean, good, happy days, but good, yeah. And the pub has evolved. I mean, like, this used to be the kitchen, living area. All our parents used to live in here. And, just over the years, there was, different atmospheres, different clientele, some people are no longer with us. And you have new people coming, you have the new generation. And, it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. And, they look after you here. They look after their customers, and that's about it.
What makes you love creating these belts? Because the way you do it, you could feel that you like what you do.
I love it.
The way you touch the legs, you could feel it.
I love it.
What makes you do it?
I think, like, for me, like, I don't know, for me, I mean, I think what really happened to me one time was, I remember a man coming in here one time, and they couldn't find a belt to fit him. He was too big. So I said to myself, I kind of said to myself, that shouldn't really be the way. You know what I mean? So I went out of my way, and I got extra big hides. I got bull's hides, which are bigger than cow's hides. Bull's hides are wider and longer. And I said, I'm never going to be in a situation again where I said to a man, I'm sorry, I can't make a belt for you because you're too big. So that for me, and a belt for me is important. Like, I like it. It's a medium. Like, the thing, like, I wouldn't give it to a person unless I'd wear it myself. And a belt, like, like a sheet of newspaper, you have an edge on the sheet of newspaper. Now sometimes if you don't do the leather properly, and you put your hand on the belt like that, you literally cut your hand off, right? So, like, that's why I skive it. I bring it nice. I take away that rough, that cutting edge. I take that away, and then I beeswax it. I dye it first, because the more you cut into leather, the lighter the colour gets on the inside than it is on the outside. So I bring it back to its original colour again, and then I put beeswax in it, and I burnish the sides of it by using friction. And with the friction, it heats up the beeswax, and it just soaks into it. And then, when you pull your hand down the belt, it's just absolutely perfectly smooth, and it won't hurt you. And then, like, over the years also, like, here what's been wonderful is families. You got families coming in with children, and it's been traditional in this pub. I mean, I remember on one particular occasion I was in here. This was last year sometime, and I was making a belt for an American gentleman. And the guy said in jest, "How long will this belt last me?" And I didn't even get a chance to say something. There was a young woman in the snug, and she came out of the snug, and she took off her belt, and she put her belt up on the counter, and she said, I heard you say, how long does this belt last for? And she put the belt up in the counter and she says, you made that belt for me, she says, 30 years ago.
Wow.
And she was wearing it. And it was her father who bought it for her. And I remember it. But also during the summertime here, families, over the years and years, they have mementos of the pub. And we make these little wristbands, for the kids. We put their names in it and all that. And they can tie it, And that's been traditional here for years. Yeah, so you're getting the young coming in and they're watching it and they're seeing something being created, not just bought, you know what I mean? They're actually seeing it being made and they find it fascinating. And their parents also find it fascinating and they love to bring them in and they love to keep their little memento from Dingle. And the little memento from Dingle is a handmade bracelet in Dick Max or a belt or whatever. And that's been traditional over the years. Even when I started working here as a kid, I remember all that happening, And
so you are not the first one who's...
No.
It's a tradition.
It's the tradition of the pub. Oh yeah, it came from a past. Might be slightly. So, and then sourcing the leather, like over the years, 30 years ago there was a tannery inside in Tralee, which is the closest town.
Okay.
But that closed down 30 years ago. And there's actually no tanneries in Ireland anymore. So all the hides are exported, or else they go live on the animal to Europe, and then you have to buy them back in. So they either go to either Spain or Italy or places like that where they're tanned. We don't tan them here. So I buy mostly all my leather from Italy. Normal size buckle, they're fast.
Okay.
They're riveted. So like over the years, and then of course people they want crazy things written on belts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have no idea. I can't repeat it.
Don't.
But, I do it.
That's the job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So basically, that's about it, really. Yeah.
And how do you feel once you made these beds?
I feel good. I can see it in the person's face. When, like, oh God, I'll never forget. When was this? This was last June or something. There's a man in here. At the hides, and he was like 56. I'm always conscientious about people in their weight. I don't discriminate between thin and fat. And like you have to be aware. People don't want to be boasting their way. So I called him over and I said, look, I have one here. I said, I think it'll fit you. I said, but I'm not quite sure. I said, right. So I made it for him. I made the belt for him. And next to he's coming outside, I brought him in here. And he put on the belt. And the belt fit him. And he went back in. And he paid me €35 for the belt. And the same price for everybody. And I don't discriminate because and he bought me a pint of Guinness.
Okay.
And on top of that, he gave me a €35 tip. Same price as the belt. Right? And the man left the pub, and I'm not joking you, he was crying.
Oh, that's an amazing story.
Yeah.
Just because he was able to find a perfect belt that fit him. That's awesome.
Yeah. Crying. He was crying. A big grown man in his 70s. He was leaving and he was crying as he was leaving. And little things like that, stick out in your mind. Yeah. And you can see it, like, it's like, it's one thing making belts and things like that, right? Mm-hmm. But like, it's like when you come into the pub and you see something else happening. It kind of breaks from just in the pub for the sake of drinking. But you see somebody doing something, and it kind of loosens up everything, you know what I mean? People get a little bit more relaxed and chilled out. And then of course, like, it's good for the bar, because like the thing about it is a daytime trade in bars can be a little bit slow. Evening times always look after themselves, you know, but to be able to bring in some people during the daytime and to keep it going and crowded, you know,
It's
that's good.
unusual, because the first time I came here on the day, I was expecting it to be closed.
Yeah.
No.
No,
actually,
no, no, no.
It's never. I don't know. Is there a moment where there are no one here?
Yeah, very, very rarely. There's always something happening, and there's always something. I mean, I have to get out of here in the evening time. I could be here until 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm not joking, yeah.
Stop.
Look,
You won't be
I
happy.
paid no way to nothing. Look, I'm shrinking. So anyway, is there any more I can do for you?
No, thank you.
No.
You did so much.
All right, have a
Thank you
good
so
one.
much.
Okay,
Bye.
cheers.
Hi, I'm Finn MacDonald. My great-grandfather Tom MacDonald opened the bar here in 1899. From day one you had the bar on one half and the leather shop on the other half. Today we have a guy called Brian doing the leather work, and I run the bar. I do the day-to-day running, I work late, I get up early, and I have a great time here.
Could you explain what you mean by great time?
I get to meet everyone from all around the world. Every day I meet different people. I get to give them beer and find out what they're doing, if they like Dingle, where they're from, you name it, I get to talk to them about it. And I get paid to do that. Yeah.
So, what's your most memorable souvenir in this pub?
For people to take away,
No, your.
from my memory for me.
yourself.
When we were younger, we'd be about the bar, and I remember one time back in about '92, I would have been about 8, coming into the bar and meeting my grandfather, who happened to be working behind the leather counter. And at the time he had one leg, he had a wheelchair, and he couldn't work behind the bar anymore. And he made a belt for a guy. And then if we forward on through time, I came back here working in '04, and in about '08, '09, that guy who had the belt made that day came back into the bar and showed me the belt and made me feel very proud, a link that we had, that link from, you know, travelling through time, that a guy came in here way back then, forward through time, and he came back again, he felt connected to the bar. And today we have the shop operating and working, and every day people come in and they buy a belt, and I know that in the future they'll come back and come into the bar, and maybe one day I won't be here to be my children, but that link and that tradition, that craft will carry on from 1899, hopefully on forever.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And what would you say to someone who never been to Dingle? Why would someone come and visit Dingle? What's your most lovely story you would share and make people feel like coming?
Apart from the natural beauty, the people here are naturally friendly, open and welcoming. The Irish tradition, you had to emigrate abroad for work, and we can relate to people who travel. You know, we enjoy being able to welcome people and invite them into our home more than anything, and that would be why I would invite
Yeah, but
people to
this
come to
is
Dingle.
all Ireland. What is specific to Dingle?
Dingle.
Why would someone come to Dickmax? Why would anyone who never heard about this place come to Dingle?
Well, we're a family-run pub from day one, and in any family-run pub you get a level of care that you might not get in every pub. You have a pride, and I owe it to my grandfather and my great-grandfather and my uncle, my mom, my dad to do a good job here. And I want to make sure that people come in here, they're welcome, they have a good time, and that they leave feeling like they want to come back.
That's
And you-
really nice
yeah.
philosophy. So, could you tell us about the different generations who were in this pub? Because I know there is Tom Max.
Tom Mac, yeah. Tom
Max, yeah,
Tom
and
MacDonald, yeah.
Dick Max.
Yeah.
And I've heard before you,
Oliver.
Oliver.
Yeah.
So could you tell me about the whole story, how it was started, and how many generations in total were working here?
Well, I'm fourth generation in the bar.
So you are the first one?
Yeah. My great grandfather married into a family called Kelleher, and they owned a property to the left of the pub here, and they had a farm adjoining it. Tom MacDonald, my great grandfather, built the pub here in 18.
This part or this only this
The main
part?
bar and the room that we're in now. He built that in 1888, and the bar opened in 1899. He died in 1932, during which time Richard MacDonald, my grandfather, Dick Mac for short, came along and took control of the bar. He had 5 children, 2 of which were my dad and twin brother Oliver. My dad immigrated along with the other children, went off working all around the world, and Oliver Mac took on the bar from a young age, he probably began working here at 12 and did it forever. When I came out of college, I came in here to help my uncle behind the bar, and shortly after took on a more managerial role in day-to-day running, and now I run it full time for him. Yeah. And my dad had helped out in the background with bookkeeping.
So how do you feel like being the first generation?
I love my job. Again, getting to meet people. We've a good local trade. You become familiar with people, and on top of that, you've different people coming through the door every day, and you never know who you're going to meet. Ever, you come in, you're like, oh, I wonder who will come through today. The family element would add pressure and a backup too. You've pressure in that you don't want to let anyone down. It can be difficult working with your uncle and your father, and when there are other people involved, you can have pressure. You get tired, and you have to meet a deadline, or you have to do everything properly the way it should be, and you can't take a shortcut out. But on the other hand, you can pick up the phone and call your family for help if you need it.
One last question. There is a festival coming next weekend.
Yeah.
Could you tell us about that?
Every year on the May Bank holiday, we have Féile na Bealtaine. Féile, like a party, Féile in Irish, and a Bealtaine May. But all around the world they have it like May weekend, kind of the beginning of the change in the year. And we at every Féile na Bealtaine here, they have a tribute to literature and performing. You have a lot of reading, poetry, and performing throughout the whole weekend, from bar to bar, from venue to venue, all in honour of our heritage and our culture related to performing.
Okay. And what are you going to do in Dick Max?
I'll be working all weekend.
Okay.
But
is there something special you're gonna?
We have on the Friday night we have a DJ event, local people who come in and play. The following morning we have a poetry event. Then we have a pagan ritual, which will involve people coming in and wearing a particular outfit that they feel appropriate for a pagan tribute, and they'll play and they'll run around and jump and drink and everything, and I'll try and
So it's every year the same thing?
Every year,
Okay.
yeah.
For this year I think it would be too short, but you could send an invitation for next year.
Sure, we want everyone to come.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.